Welcome to Always Analog, where we celebrate the beauty of analog technology in the digital world. Today, a pencil review. And I have been looking forward to this for a while. Today, we're going to look at the General Pencil Company's Big Boy Bowler. And boy, this pencil to me is just transports me back to my childhood where we went bowling a lot. I was on a couple of bowling leagues when I was a kid, and it was the most fun. And I am so grateful that I actually lived at a time where there was not automatic scoring. Perhaps there was technology, but very few bowling alleys had such a thing. The vast majority of bowling alleys were manually scored. In other words, you kept your own bowling score. You didn't rely on a machine or a computer to do that. And so when you would walk into a bowling alley, and I still remember the league I was on, we bowled on Saturday mornings, and I want to say maybe we started bowling around 9 o'clock or maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and you would walk into that bowling alley. And bowling alleys always have a certain smell about them. Part of it, I think, is whatever they use to wax the alleys, the wood. And also we're talking about a time where you would walk in and you could still smell the beer and the cigarette smoke from we bowled on Saturday morning, so the Friday night was still lingering in the air, which was probably a big night at the bowling alley, I'm sure. The bowling alley's not even there anymore. I think there's a Home Depot now where the bowling alley was. It was a big bowling alley. I think it had 84 lanes, so you can imagine the size. But anyways, you'd walk in, and once you got your lane assignment, the guy behind the counter, or woman, would tear off had a big pad of score paper, and they would tear a sheet off, and they would hand you a pencil or two, or there might be pencils sitting on the little scoring desk that was at each alley, at each lane. And I don't remember if they were General's Big Boy bowling pencils that we had. I seem to remember them being red, but maybe some of them were blue. But this is how they came. They were a large pencil with a large core. And let's take a closer look at this. So first, you'll see it's a little paint drip here, but on either side. But you can see it is a larger than normal core, and it is a hexagonal pencil. And I do remember that because you didn't want it to roll off the desk as you were bowling and have to pick it up. So it would stay put, it wouldn't roll because the desk was slanted. Here it is in this blue color and kind of a royal blue. USA General Pencil Company in Jersey City, New Jersey. Number 300, which, by the way, if you didn't know, that is the number of a perfect bowling score. That is getting a strike or knocking down 10 pins in every throw, in every frame. Getting a strike, you get 300 would be a perfect bowling score. Big Boy Bowler. And no eraser. And I always remember that you didn't have an eraser because you didn't want anyone changing the score. So General's still sells these, and to my knowledge, this is about, there are plenty of large size pencils out there. This is the only one that I'm aware of that is designated as a bowling pencil. And one of the great things about keeping bowling score Same as keeping statistics in baseball or anything else, is that we didn't have calculators there, and we didn't have phones that had calculators on them, and it was simple arithmetic that you had to do in your head. But it wasn't difficult because we did it all the time. And so we had those basic skills, and keeping a bowling score is not particularly complicated. There are some rules about it, but we could add things in our head, and it was great. And everybody took turns keeping score, and it was easy to check to make sure that people were adding correctly. And it was just a different era. But boy, this pencil, aside from keeping a bowling score, which I think very few people do anymore, might also be a nice writer, because I do remember those pencils being fairly dark and fairly soft. And at the desk, up at the counter where you paid for your games and you checked in, they had a big, giant, heavy-duty electric pencil sharpener at this bowling alley, because I'm sure they sharpened hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pencils a week, and kept them, probably every day, had to put some points on them depending on how much they got used. And once the pencil got down to about here, they took it out of service, and I don't know if they just threw them out or what. But anyways, let me get this sharpened up. I think I have a sharpener that will do the job here, and we're going to try out our General Pencil Company number 300 Big Boy Bowler. So I'm getting the pencil sharpened here, and right away I noticed how red in tone the wood was, and a quick sniff tells me that this actually is a beautiful cedar pencil. I can tell by the shavings. Sharpens very nicely, by the way, but what a bonus to have such a beautiful wooden pencil. So here it is, our General's Big Boy Bowler. This would also be a nice learning pencil for people who young students who are learning to write, who benefit by using a larger pencil to hold on to. But let's try it. It's not graded. I'll tell you, it feels very much a number 2. There you go. Yep, it really does take me back, the size of the pencil. It is I think I would say it is a little bit on the firmer side, the core. Pencils I remember were maybe they were always a little scratchy, as this one is, but maybe perhaps a little bit darker. But this definitely is a HB number 2, I would say, by feel. So, I'm going to see, again, it doesn't have an eraser. The bowling pencils never did. And if someone, The only time it was really an issue is sometimes you'd have someone keeping score who just was not good with their math, and they would add things up incorrectly. And then, you know, you had to kind of scratch out and write over, and that was a pain. But there just weren't any erasers. I guess part of it because you didn't want people to, if you had to change the score, it was sort of an ordeal. But take a look at this. Very little smudge drag. Very, very little. As far as erasability for this pencil, we will see how that is. Again, I think most users of this pencil will not be in a bowling alley. So let's try a few different erasers and see how they do. Let's come in here a little bit. So I had the Pentel, here's the Mars plastic. Nataraj Dust Clear, it's called. Pink Carnation, Dixon. An art gum. Oh, a Milan. Hartmouth rubber. Okay. Well, it erases all right. There's still a little shadowing there, but it lifts off pretty well. I'm going to give it a B minus on overall erasability. Okay. Now, I always like to try to see if we can use this instrument for its original intent, okay? So what I'm going to try to do is let's just pretend that we are doing bowling. Okay, so here is our, and you may remember that bowling score sheets have, there's basically, you get 2 throws when you bowl. Now if you throw a strike, which is knocking down all 10 pins, then you're done. But the 10th frame, you get 3 throws. Okay. And then we have our total. So let's pretend that we are bowling. And yeah, bowling scores would be this. So, and this is, we'll do something realistic like how I would bowl these days. It's been a long time. And so I'm not nearly as good as I was never a great bowler, but I'm not as good as even I was. Because I just don't bowl that often anymore. Why, I don't know. I miss it. It's a fun activity, especially with a group of people. So I knocked down 4 pins, and then I knocked down 5. So I didn't quite get a spare. So I've got 9 pins. Then my second frame, I throw a strike. Okay. So that X indicates a strike. So I bowled 9, I got down all 10 pins. Now, we don't put a score in there, even though I knocked down 10 pins. We're not going to put a 19 here, because when you throw a strike, the benefits of throwing a strike is also that you get your 10 pins from your strike plus the number of pins on your next 2 throws. So in the third frame, I only knocked down 4 on my first try, but I get the other 6 on my second try. So that's a spare. So that would be a spare, would be a half of a box. Okay, so then that means I have 10 plus another 10. That gives me 20. So that takes my score to 29 for that frame. And then again, with the spare, there's a benefit of throwing a spare, because you get your 10 pins for the spare plus the amount of the next single throw. So I got a spare. Now it's the fourth frame, and I get 8 on my first, and I got 2 left, and I'm only able to knock, say, 1 over, so that would be a 9. But that would be 10 plus 8 is 18. So we will add the 18 to the 29, and that'll give us 47. Then we will add the 9 from the fourth frame, and that will give us 56. And then the fifth frame, another strike. All right, I'm just getting warmed up here. Again, we don't score it. Now you can put an X in there, or some people would score it this way. They would fill it in a solid square. Either is correct. Then in the next frame, I'm gonna give myself another strike, okay? So remember, it is the 10 plus your next 2 throws. Well, this is just one throw here because I took them all out in one throw. So then I've got to wait till I start my 7th frame. Now this time on my first throw, I knocked down 6, and then I have 4 left, and I'm only able to knock down 2. So in this case, it's 10 plus the next 2. So 10, 26. So 26 and 56 puts me at 82. And then here, it's 10 plus my next 2. So it's 10 plus 18. Now I'm at 100. And then here, I get my 8 pins for the 7th frame. So that's 108. Okay, so in the 8th frame, I get an 8, and I'm putting a circle around it because it's a split, and that indicates a split. So let's say I got the dreaded 7-10 split, which leaves a pin on either side of the alley. And it's not impossible, but a very hard shot to make. And I think I only made it ever once. And I doubt that I would make it this time. So I'm just going to get the 1 pin. So it won't be a spare. So that will be 9, and 108 gives me 117. Okay, 9th frame. I get 7, and then I get the remaining 3, so that's a spare. So we're going to leave that blank. Now I'm in the 10th frame, final frame of the game. So I throw a strike. Yay for me. So again, the spare gives me the 10 plus the next throw. So I had 10, and 10 is 20. So that's 137. But you get 3 throws in the 10th frame. So I knocked down 10, and I'd like to get another strike, but I only knocked down 7. But I do get another throw to try to get the remaining 3. But let's just say I get 2. So that's 9. I get the 10, the strike, plus the next 2 is 19. So that gives me 156. And that's my score. Okay, so we just went bowling. How about that? But it also gave me a chance to use this wonderful pencil. So do a little bit more writing. It's actually a nice pencil to hold. It's a softer hex, but the added circumference of the barrel really makes it easy to grip. Okay, well, here it is. General Pencil Company's number 300 Big Boy Bowler. So, while you may not be needing it at your local bowling alley to keep your score, although I think there are still a few bowling alleys in the United States that never upgraded to automatic scoring. Wouldn't that be fun to go? They might have these pencils behind the counter or some other big scoring pencil for you to use. But even if you just want to use it to draw, to write, as a teaching pencil for people learning to write, because it is easy to grip and it is very comfortable. It is a beautiful wooden pencil with a, I would say, firmer number 2 core, and perhaps too that came in handy so the bowling alleys wouldn't have to continually be sharpening pencils all the time. But it's a nice pencil, and for those of us who remember the days of bowling pencils, it's kind of a nostalgic little trip. I really enjoyed using this. This was fun. So thank you for spending some time with me, for being a part of this. And if you like what I do, please share, like, subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon here on Always Analog.